In 1012, 45 ships from Thorkell the Tall's invading force crossed into the English king's paid service. The change did not erase years of violence. It converted organized coercion into a precarious royal defense. Thorkell would serve Æthelred, oppose Cnut, join Cnut, and finally govern within Cnut's expanding monarchy. His career exposes no permanent boundary between raider, mercenary, invader, and royal ally. Those labels describe changing contracts and relationships rather than four separate identities. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle provides the strongest chronological frame because several contemporary recensions recorded the crisis year by year. Its terse entries emphasize devastation, tribute, failed defense, and the decisions of English leaders. Continental and Scandinavian traditions add context, while later sagas attach ancestry and Viking associations that remain uncertain. Thorkell's early life cannot be reconstructed securely from contemporary English evidence. Later Norse texts make him a son of Strut Harald and connect him with the legendary Vikings. These claims shaped his remembered pedigree, but they were written too late to function as straightforward identification. His historical visibility begins when a large Scandinavian fleet reached England in 1009. Its pages name Thorkell among the leaders and follow operations lasting across several campaigning seasons. It wintered, maneuvered widely, demanded payment, and exploited divisions within English command. Ships provided mobility along coasts and rivers, yet crews still required food, horses, guides, and sheltered bases. Communities across southern and eastern England met those requirements through taxation, seizure, purchase, or forced submission. Repeated entries describe local musters failing because orders arrived late or commanders did not cooperate. Its frustration points toward an English political problem that Thorkell's army understood how to exploit. Royal resources were substantial, but mobilizing them consistently across threatened regions proved far harder. In 1010, the invaders defeated East Anglian forces at Ringmere. The precise battlefield choreography is unknown, despite later temptation to imagine disciplined shield walls and individual feats. Afterward, attacks spread through districts whose inhabitants faced burned settlements, lost provisions, ransom demands, and captivity. The army's operational success depended on maintaining collective discipline long enough to negotiate from strength. Canterbury became the campaign's defining catastrophe when the city fell in September 1011. The invaders held Archbishop Ælfheah captive, expecting a ransom from his church and political network. He refused to burden others with the demanded payment, according to accounts shaped by his subsequent martyr cult. In April 1012, members of the army killed him during a drunken gathering at Greenwich. Later tradition says Thorkell tried to prevent the killing, but contemporary certainty about his exact actions is lacking. It also damaged the standing of commanders seeking dependable negotiations with the English crown. Soon afterward, the English paid the army £48,000, a figure preserved by the Chronicle. Large silver payments required assessment, collection, transport, weighing, and redistribution across many crews. Their scale reveals a fiscal state capable of raising wealth even when its military coordination faltered. At this point, Thorkell and 45 ships entered Æthelred's service. Contemporary annals distinguish them from the fleet that's dispersed after receiving payment. Their crews now required royal maintenance, commonly understood through the tax known as heergeld. Service transformed former enemies into a standing force whose loyalty depended on continued reward and political calculation. Æthelred gained experienced ships and fighters at a moment when another Scandinavian offensive remained likely. Thorkell gained legal access to English resources without surrendering command of his own military following. Neither side needed to forget Canterbury for this arrangement to serve immediate interests. The alliance was tested in 1013 when King Sweyn Forkbeard invaded England with his son Cnut. Regions submitted as Sweyn advanced, while London remained a crucial center of resistance. Thorkell's fleet supported Æthelred and helped defend the city against another Danish ruler. An ethnic explanation cannot account for these alignments, since Scandinavians fought on opposing sides under different obligations. Political loyalty followed patrons, payments, hostages, family interests, and prospects of survival. When Sweyn's success forced Æthelred into exile, Thorkell's position became dangerous. Sweyn died unexpectedly in February 1014, reopening the English succession before conquest had solidified. English leaders recalled Æthelred after extracting promises of better government, while Cnut withdrew to reorganize. Thorkell remained associated with Æthelred during this reversal, demonstrating that his contract had outlasted its first crisis. The restored king soon faced rebellion from his son Edmund Ironside and distrust among leading nobles. Cnut returned in 1015 with a new invasion force and exploited those divisions methodically. At some point, Thorkell transferred his support to Cnut. The sources do not preserve the negotiation, price, or private reasoning behind that decisive change. It may reflect deteriorating confidence in Æthelred's regime, Cnut's offers, or the strategic necessity of choosing a likely victor. Any single motive would exceed what the record can prove. By 1016, England endured campaigns involving Cnut, Edmund, regional magnates, and fleets with shifting allegiances. Æthelred died in April, leaving Edmund to contest the kingdom against the invader. After several battles, Cnut defeated Edmund decisively at Asandun and agreed to divide rule. Thorkell probably held major command under Cnut, although individual battlefield actions assigned by later stories remain insecure. Edmund's death in November left Cnut as king of all England. Conquest now required a different skill from invasion, distributing authority without allowing armed partners to become independent rivals. In 1017, Cnut divided England into large earldoms and placed Thorkell over East Anglia. The appointment rewarded service while positioning a trusted military magnate within a wealthy, strategically exposed region. East Anglia had endured repeated campaigning and possessed routes connecting the North Sea with England's interior. Governing it meant collecting revenue, maintaining order, attending the king, and managing competing local interests. Thorkell had moved from extracting English silver to administering part of the system that produced it. Cnut also eliminated several English nobles during his consolidation, showing the danger surrounding every high appointment. Thorkell's unusual value came from his ships, followers, experience, and credibility among Scandinavian military settlers. That same independent power could make him indispensable one year and threatening the next. When Cnut traveled to Denmark in 1019, Thorkell appears to have held exceptional responsibility in England. A royal letter addressed to English subjects associates the king's return with advice from Thorkell and other leading men. The relationship reached its public height through proximity to royal decision-making, not merely battlefield command. Yet in 1021, Cnut outlawed Thorkell and Thorkell's wife, an abrupt breach recorded without explanation. Later authors supplied dramatic causes, but no contemporary account securely identifies the dispute. Exile demonstrates that alliance under Cnut was conditional and could fail despite years of service. Thorkell returned to Denmark rather than disappearing from the political map. Reconciliation followed by 1023, when Cnut and Thorkell exchanged hostages and renewed their agreement. The Encomium Emae Reginae describes a settlement that entrusted Denmark and Cnut's young son Harthacnut to Thorkell. That work praised Queen Emma and Cnut's dynasty, so its portrayal of harmony serves a political purpose. Even with that bias, the restored appointment fits Thorkell's established role as a commander capable of governing across the North Sea. Hostage exchange reveals limited trust more clearly than courtly language about loyalty. Cnut needed a powerful deputy in Denmark while ruling England, and Thorkell needed renewed legitimacy from the king. Their alliance survived because each possessed resources the other could not cheaply replace. The date and circumstances of Thorkell's death remain uncertain. Later reports suggesting his fall or execution cannot be accepted without qualification. His disappearance from secure records matters less than the political pattern his career makes visible. Fleet leaders were not external to state formation. Rulers built new regimes by bargaining with them. Mercenary service did not mean impersonal employment under modern contracts. It involved gifts, revenue, office, personal loyalty, followers, and the continual possibility of defection. English taxation financed defense, but that defense might be commanded by men who had recently forced the taxation. Royal titles domesticated military power without removing its independent foundation. Thorkell's repeated changes of side were not random movements between national camps. They occurred within a North Sea arena where competing kings claimed the same ships, ports, silver, and aristocratic support. English annals record the costs from a kingdom's viewpoint, while its leaders struggled to coordinate resistance. The encomium presents the later monarchy as orderly, smoothing the dangerous negotiations that helped create it. Norse tradition gave Thorkell a heroic lineage, filling biographical gaps with a prestigious martial past. None alone explains him, but together they show how service could recast an invader as a pillar of kingship. The 45 ships of 1012 remain the clearest turning point because they stayed organized while their political meaning changed. First, they embodied the price of failed defense. Then they became a defense purchased by that same state. Under Cnut, their commander gained office inside a conquest that blended Scandinavian followers with English institutions. Thorkell the Tall was never simply absorbed. Every alliance preserved enough power for another negotiation.